It has been less than a month since a law went into effect in Florida banning most abortions. And yet already we are seeing the ripple effects of that. The Washington Post reports on a new study today showing that wait times for abortions in nearby states across the East Coast are up nearly 30% since that Florida law went into effect. North Carolina clinics appear to be suffering the most from the increased patient load. Wait times in North Carolina have risen in half the clinics in that state. Now, it is not a surprise that neighboring states, ones not as hostile to abortion, are feeling the effects of Florida's abortion ban. But what is surprising is the effect on those states is perhaps not quite as severe as expected. According to abortion clinic staffers in Florida, fewer women appeared to be leaving the state for abortion care than was widely expected, a finding largely attributed to the increasing availability of telemedicine and abortion pills. It's a good reminder that in a post-Roe world, the landscape of abortion access has changed dramatically thanks to the abortion medications mifepristone and misoprostol, which are being sent through the mail into states that have banned abortion. But that has made medication abortion the next target for the anti-abortion movement, with a case that could severely curtail nationwide access to mifepristone that's currently pending before the Supreme Court. And just today, Louisiana became the first state in the nation to criminalize not the use of abortion pills, but the possession of the medications without a prescription. That law was passed yesterday by the Louisiana Senate, and tonight it was signed into law by the state's Republican governor. Once the law takes effect, people in Louisiana could be thrown in prison for up to 5 years just for having abortion pills in their possession. Joining me now is Amanda Zurawski. She nearly died in 2022 when she was denied a medically necessary abortion in the state of Texas, which of course has banned nearly all abortions. She is now suing the state, trying to challenge its bans. Amanda, thank you so much for being here, and thank you as always for sharing your story. I do wonder, what your reaction is to the news out of Louisiana tonight, which is Republicans acting to take one of the last remaining tools out of the hands of women seeking to assert control over their own bodies.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. In regards to Louisiana, first and foremost, my heart just shatters for all of the people in Louisiana who are now going to suffer under this new law. And frankly, it's terrifying. As you mentioned, very similar consideration is in front of the Texas Supreme Court where I live, and it's just absolutely terrifying. I truly can't believe that we are living in this dystopian reality where we can be punished, we can be criminalized, we can be jailed for accessing basic health care. And make no mistake, this is a direct result of Donald Trump and his overturning of Roe v. Wade, which, by the way, he continues to brag about. And if he's reelected, we know that he will make this an issue across the country, and it's absolutely terrifying.
You know, you mentioned the word criminalization, which I think is so important in all of this. It's the idea of the punitive nature of all of this. Women being criminalized for having abortion medication, which is entirely safe, has been for decades, has been approved by the FDA. Women criminalized for trying to cross the border to seek abortions in other states. But it's this notion that the law is cracking down on the people who seek to control their own bodies. And I wonder, as a woman who was in that situation, what it feels like to be told and to be positioned by the state as someone who is doing something criminally wrong.
It's unbelievable. It's unthinkable that there are politicians like Donald Trump who are trying to criminalize us for making decisions for our own bodies. These are decisions that should be between a woman and her healthcare provider. This is not something that politicians need to have their hands in. I don't think Donald Trump or his MAGA allies know better than my doctors. And so why do they think they have any business telling me how to make my own healthcare decisions?
You know, it feels like, the first front was abortion. Then we're talking about IVF and embryos. We're now talking about abortion medication. Contraception is on the table. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about your personal struggle with IVF, given what happened to you and your body as a result of the Texas law, and what you're doing to sort of manage the increasingly dim landscape for women seeking any kind of reproductive assistance.
It's interesting for me because on the one hand, I fall under the category of being unable to receive an abortion when I needed one. And, MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump are saying because that's pro-life. But then on the other hand, now because of what I went through, because of the ban in Texas, that is a result of Donald Trump, I have to pursue IVF to try to build my family. And now MAGA Republicans are trying to tell us if and when and how we can access IVF. And so to me, it feels very much about control. And again, I don't think politicians have any business having their hands in my family planning journey or telling me when or where or how I can build a family. And so it's really disheartening, but it's also motivating to fight back because we can change this and we can fix this as long as we make sure that Donald Trump is not reelected.
I know that you've spoken publicly about your decision to move your embryo. Why don't you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but could you tell us a little bit how you've made family planning decisions? I mean, it truly feels like in this journey, you've been treated like a criminal on the run. And every time you see a path towards having a family, it's like there's someone that comes out of the corner with a new regulation.
That's exactly right. And that's what I mean when I say this feels like it's about control. You're exactly right. My husband and I are very happy to have a number of embryos that we're hoping will one day become children. But when the Alabama Supreme Court ruling came out earlier this year, we were absolutely terrified. And so we instantly made the decision to move our embryos out of Texas because we know the political landscape in Texas is very similar to Alabama. And so we moved them somewhere that we felt they would be safer. But there is still a great deal of fear because, again, if Donald Trump is reelected, it won't matter what state our embryos are in because they won't be safe anywhere.
Yeah, well, he's looking for the Comstock, whether the Comstock Act or a national abortion ban. There are options that are very much on the table should he win the presidency again in 2024. Amanda Zurawski, thank you for being here. Thank you for telling us about intimately the struggles that you have been going through just as a woman trying to deal with her own body in the 21st century. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.